So welcome everyone. We are currently going through two texts, Venerable Pema Chodron's How to Meditate and His Eminence Thrangu Rinpoche's Tranquility and Insight. And we're using those texts both to speak about meditation and explore some of the key topics that are the foundation of understanding meditation. So last week, essentially, we brought up the first two of the four noble truths, suffering and the causes of suffering. And we clarified that when we talk about suffering, we're not talking about the inescapable facts of life, birth, old age, sickness and death, friends who we love departing, coming across people who we find difficult, breaking an ankle, those kinds of things. But essentially, we're talking about what is expressed in the word dukkha as suffering or a dissatisfaction. And we defined meditation as holding our minds steadily and unwaveringly as we experience different levels of calmness or calming the chaos of our minds through increasing our capacity for steadiness, and that it goes in hand with insight or clear seeing. At first, that's a clear seeing of what we're experiencing, and then it's a clear seeing of the nature of reality. So I want to go back to this quality of unwavering versus distraction. And I've been using the word distraction because I felt that it has less kinds of judgments attached to it. But very quickly, we can start attaching opinions and judgments. Distraction is wrong. Let's keep being flexible with vocabulary, but we're trying to understand what unwavering means in our experience and approaching distraction with curiosity. So the text Tranquility and Insight goes on to describe Vasubandhu's explanation. Shamatha is the mind resting in the mind. Mind is so relaxed, it rests within itself, undistracted by thoughts. So it's not saying there are no thoughts, it's saying undistracted by thoughts. And he further clarifies that distraction means being swept away. So I think everybody understands that experience of all of a sudden you realize you're in a narrative, you're in a habitual pattern, you are swept away from the object of focus, and you didn't even notice being swept away. You just came to wondering, oh my goodness, how many minutes in this session have I been gone? So part of what we're doing in meditation is using our clear seeing to see more and more subtle beginning points of being swept away. And it becomes very interesting because we see that we have lots of opinions and judgments about meditation itself, and we have these assumptions about what a good meditation session is and what a good meditator is. So just being normal, and in particular our culture of striving and achievement, we may start out thinking that there is a perfect meditation, and we might create an imaginary goal in our minds about what we think meditation might be. Whereas what we're looking at are hints of experiences that can be written down, that we can read in text, and the whole process of softening, relaxing, seeing ourselves with all of our vulnerabilities, all of our fears, all of their warts, becoming curious about humanness and being alive, and becoming relaxed so that there's a fearlessness going along with that curiousness as we see what our experience is of being alive. And as we relax into our minds as they are in this moment, a process unfolds just like a flower blooming naturally, eventually not changing us into some sort of saint, but taking us so deeply into the intrinsic nature of my mind, which is where our Buddha nature always has been. We're becoming more ourselves, not an imaginary ideal in an experience that's an imaginary ideal. So the reason I like looking at these two texts hand in hand is then Venerable Pema Chodron goes into the process in a way that helps us let go of our imaginary goal and our imaginary perfect meditation session, to really help us see key points about the process. And when we can see these key points, we become more at home with the process than striving after an achievement. So her description is nurturing 5 qualities over the years. And I love that she says over the years, and she is very specific, not for months, but the long haul over the years. And when we think of our meditation in this way, nurturing qualities over the years, not maybe one day we'll have a perfect meditation if we do everything right and we'll become some nice person that was separate or is separate from all of our humanness, our vulnerabilities, and the faults that we're working with. It becomes so much about the process that becomes so much more interesting than the goal. So the first quality, and probably you can't say one is more important than another. I wanted to say the most important quality, but these qualities actually exist simultaneously, but perhaps the first one that brings us into the exploration of the process is steadfastness with ourselves. So not some imaginary nice person, just with ourselves. And experiencing with soft, relaxed curiosity what is actually true for us in this moment. Not what we would like it to be, not some special experience, but just this moment. And she expresses it as a loyalty to ourselves and our experiences of life and of our humanness. And I knew her, or I was training with her in a particular period, and it may have been that she was really discovering the significance of this. But when she would do a refuge ceremony, she would give calligraphies to people. And, there was a period where she was writing steadfastness over and over again. So there's this sense of this human being is the path that I am working with. And if I'm in grief, if I'm in anger, if I'm in resistance, if I'm in addiction, this is what I am working with. This is my particular path. I may not like myself when I'm experiencing a lot of resistance and act with anger and irritation, but it's still, this is it. So with steadfastness, we're willing to look at what is happening without judgment, without bias, without trying to fix it. Just, this is the experience. Can I let go into this experience? Can I persevere with this experience as the teaching moment? And with this non-rejection of anything that we're experiencing, we can unpack even the scariest of our constructed patterns, the corners of our mind that not only do we don't want anyone else to see, but we don't want to see it either. With an attitude of non-rejection of our humanness, we can just say, oh, okay, this is a knot. Let me untie this particular knot that's manifesting today. And I was thinking, what do we see today that's knotted? And everybody used to have the iPhone earplugs, and the cords would get all tangled, and it was such an effort, and sometimes very irritating. But here we are thinking, oh, how interesting this cord is, how interesting this particular strand is. Can I look at it with curiosity and relax with it and understand it? So we're experiencing meditation. We're noticing on any given day as a human being their thoughts and emotions, what sweeps us away, and to what degree are we being swept away? Is it like a tidal wave, like an ocean wave, so that we come back over and over again? Or just like the ripples in a river, we don't have to pay attention to anything but the flow. So that brings us to the second quality that she talks about, clear seeing and clear awareness. So we're seeing when we're unwavering, when we're a little distracted, when we're greatly distracted, and we're relaxed with that. And with that clear seeing, we can start to see the habitual patterns, not when they're a tidal wave, but perhaps when they're an ocean wave, or what is the physical discomfort that I see before I jump out to a narrative. We start to see our relationship to our habitual patterns as well as the habitual patterns themselves. And we're not only seeing the habitual patterns, but then we're seeing how quickly we're judging them, and for many people for a long time, how much we judge ourselves and berate ourselves for the patterns themselves, for not being able to conquer the patterns, all of the different ways that we lay opinion after opinion after opinion on top of this dance of layers of distraction and coming back. And the third point is, it is not immediate that we have the courage to look at all of this, the courage to drop all of our judgments and see what it's like to just observe our mind with curiosity, much less the courage to look at those cobwebby corners. So she makes a big point of saying gradual courage. Gradual courage to approach our own self with loyalty and steadfastness, and to soften, open, shine a light, relax, allow the dark corners to become apparent. And one of the really beautiful statements she makes in this chapter is that the human species, although we want to feel more alive and awake, we're not comfortable with the transient shifting quality of the energy of reality. So here we go back to dukkha. We're not comfortable with impermanence moment to moment and the shifting energy of impermanence. And we experience a discomfort. So essentially what she's saying is, although we want to be in the present moment, we have a discomfort with the present moment, which causes us to jump to the past or the future. And that there is a security in our habitual patterns, which go back and forth between hope and fear, past and future. This was a bad experience and they did this to me and I didn't like it because, to maybe I'm going to win the prize, get the promotion, have a fabulous lunch with my friends, any sort of fantasy about the future. We would rather jump back and forth than work with the restlessness that is how we experience the present moment until we're able to settle into the present moment. So in terms of meditation, all of this means we're hearing all these combinations of instructions, that start with just follow your breath, for instance. And follow your breath until your mind can relax in itself, mind relaxing in mind, with a clarity of seeing, so that you distinguish what's happening in the restlessness, what's happening in the distraction, and eventually what's happening with the absolute. And all of this is a lifelong exploration, not a one-session exploration or 6 months exploration. And I've been thinking a lot about one of the nuns that I worked with at Genpo Abbey. She's no longer alive, and I absolutely confident that she would like her story to be used. Some of the great meditation teachers become superstars and great communicators, and have obvious accomplishments. The great Rinpoches we know have such open, compassionate minds. We experience their realization. But this was a very humble nun. And she joined the monastery, and she was not stable. She did not have a stable mind. And she had such a inappropriate attraction that she found she could not work with really in community, that they finally said to her, you really can't stay here unless you agree to see a psychiatrist. And so she did see the psychiatrist, and she may have worked with this one, karmic aspect of her mind. We each have some karmic aspect of our mind that's a little more difficult than the others. So she may have worked with this her whole monastic life. And she did not give up on herself, and the ordained community did not give up on her. And this was a very slow process, and I'm sure for her it was agonizing. But over time, over years and years and years and years and years of practice, this particular practice path became her softening, her gentleness, her light in the community. So one of the things that we see in Vajrayana is pictures of deities that have a skull crown, and then we see others that have a jeweled crown. And what that means is the process of, for her, this particular kind of addiction became the opening and the path, so that became her crown. That once skull that was poisonous, scary, became the jewel because it was her pathway through to this unwavering, steady commitment to meditation practice and the Dharma. She became not less herself, not some perfect person that was different than the person who was consumed by this desire, but someone who used the desire to become a lovely, open, gentle, relaxed person who could be a teacher for many, many people who are going through difficult things. This is what I mean about it's not about becoming someone different. It's that steadfastness and using the Dharma principles and becoming at home, and becoming at home with a process that is unfolding in a way that's moment to moment. And this brings about the fourth quality, awake to each moment, moment to moment to moment. With the steadfastness, with the commitment, with the fearless curiosity, then we see each moment and we don't know what the next moment is, but we become, instead of restless and dissatisfied with the shifting changes, comfortable with the unknown. And I'm sure any one of us could look at our lives and see how difficult that is. There are problems in our families, where we don't know what tomorrow is going to be like or the next hour is going to be like. There are changes in our own bodies that may seem like that. We may be involved in grief or in arguments. But in this process, we can slow things down, seeing moment to moment and not trying to make assumptions about what the next moment should be or what we wish it will be. Another time, Venerable Pema just shared how she was working with this practice in her own life. And she said, well, my current practice is to use every doorway I go through and not assume that I know what's on the other side of the door. Like opening the front door or going into your bedroom or the living room. What is it like to go into the next moment without an assumption? How to relax with the unknown. And then the fifth quality she describes as no big deal. And again, each of these qualities are inseparable from each other, and each are important. So the no big deal, let's say we're going through the doorway moment to moment, then each moment of reality as we experience it is arising without assumption and without judgment. So if there is, a crushing phone call, no big deal. It's a moment unfolding that we can relax with how we're experiencing it, with this steadfast quality of being in the experience of it, seeing the impermanence of the experience, using our skills to help us see the impermanence of it. Or let's say it's all of a sudden there is a flash of some great insight of meditation. No big deal. Another moment. And we know from those flashes, the second they occur, if there is the interruption of, oh, wow, that was clearly bodhicitta, or wow, that was, something really special. All of a sudden you're out of it. Your mind isn't relaxed. It's excited. That softness that might have extended that perception is gone, lost in the excitement of it. So all of these five qualities, steadfastness, clear seeing, gradual courage, moment to moment, and no big deal, contribute to building the steady unwaveringness in partnership with the insight, awareness that eventually helps us calm down the tidal waves of relative reality and opens for us insight into the absolute. So let's sit with this. Let's do about 5 or 6 minutes of meditation. And I would encourage you to take any one of these qualities that you think might be helpful for you, or that you discover might be helpful for you. For instance, how quickly do you judge what's going on? How quickly do you make opinions about what's going on when you attempt to drop your thoughts and focus on your breath? How much do you want something to happen as opposed to relaxing into what is? Can you see a slowing down as your mind calms down? Can you experience, when we sit down to meditation and we drop our narratives and focus on our breath, we might touch base right at that moment with the unease of the shifting energies that are described. So let's just, being so curious and loyal to ourselves, sit for a few minutes. So at first, you might begin by focusing on your breath. And if it's helpful to see moment-to-moment precision, counting your breaths till 10 and then starting over, noticing distraction and coming back. So I love some of the meditation examples. For instance, we live in a culture of self-improvement, right? You can go out and get a self-help book and, we think about what do I want to change about myself? Whereas the old meditation instructions come from a period when people were very in touch with nature. And one of the examples is, well, it's more like not changing yourself. It's more like you see a bunch of snakes in a knot and they relax and they just slide out. So not an everyday example here, but that quality of relaxing, loosening, and naturally the knot comes undone, as opposed to I need to change it or fix it and become a better person. So why don't we close the YouTube live with the dedication, and then we can have some discussion. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. And we'll just do the dedication at the very end.